play, Imogen's just moved back to Scotland. Her twin sister has died and she's joined a wrestling team. For me, unless the director has asked me to do something, then I'll just go in blind on the first day, because the first week of all rehearsals usually is table work, so usually there isn't anything to do unless they've said specifically, learn a line, do this prep for your character, because I'll just do it when I get there and I'm quite immersed in the environment. I think especially because I was moving, I had to move to Scotland for it, I was like, if I don't have to do anything, I'm gonna prep for this move instead, yeah. I think we were quite lucky in the sense that, I mean, I was thinking, is this going to be like Blackwatch? Like, is it going to be like, oh. So I think coming into it, I was a bit of a couch potato, so I was a bit scared coming in, but it wasn't too bad, I think, from a wrestling perspective. But I did go to the gym during all of rehearsals because it was like, just in case. And also, you just felt more comfortable because we were stretching every day, we were moving. Now the moves feel like second nature, but I do feel like the first couple of rehearsals, we were still easing in, also because we were trying different things. Like, we've had movement sequences change and some added, some taken away. So I think it just made me feel more capable coming into the room, definitely. Johnny's the kind of director, like obviously he's got an acting background, so he's the kind of director who does like line reads sometimes, which I think sometimes can really piss an actor off, but like I'm neurodivergent, so for me, if you tell me, kind of like this, say it like this. That's really clear. I can follow that. I can say it like that. So I quite like that. Yeah. A lot of Imogen's story and journey isn't spoken about in the piece. So I had to make a lot of decisions in terms of who she was, why she was there, how things were affecting her, what she was really thinking moment to moment, like her motivations for things, her experiences behind that, even down to her accent. So Imogen is a Black Londoner, but she speaks quite colloquial. She speaks with an MLE accent, which isn't typically a middle class or an upper class accent that you would expect from someone of her background. So for me, I was like, she's a loser, which kind of surprised everyone in the room. They were like, oh, I thought Imogen's really cool. I was like, no, in London she'd be a loser, because we'd all be like, why do you talk like that? Like, we know that you should have an RP accent, so you're trying really hard, which makes me feel like that is someone who actually probably isn't completely comfortable with their blackness, not completely accepted by the Black community in London. They're trying really hard to want to be seen a certain type of way. So that reveals something about the kind of person she is. She's a poser herself. She's telling everyone to be real and true to themselves, but she's not. I know that because, you know, being a Londoner and obviously it being performed to Scottish people, they're like, oh, so she's like, and I was like, no, like it's almost interesting. It's almost like an Easter egg. Like, unless you've, you know, lived amongst those people in London, you don't realise that that's not normal, and that her character, her accent, down to the way that to the way she uses slang, that's not normal. But this is a character going through grief, right? So then you've kind of got this double end where you're like, is she trying to be something new and different because she's just lost her sister and she doesn't know who the hell she is? Did she speak with an RP accent when she was in London, and then she comes to Scotland, she wants to be something different? What is that? Who is that, you know? So there's just so many questions and layers that could unfold between how much her grief has played a role in her acting this way, or has she always been this way? I think especially seeing that, I think the final argument between Chantel and Joe is so strong. I would say it's almost my favourite thing in the whole piece, because you have such a wonderful payoff from seeing their fun, bubbly friendship to kind of them confronting all of these unsaid things from all their bus stop moments. But I think me, Efè, you know, the Black activist, hearing a lot of the things that Chantel says is incredibly frustrating, because I would know what I would say in response to that in these topics and questions about identity when you're a non-white person in a white majority country, and topics of privilege and all the rest of it. But Joe doesn't have the vernacular for that. Joe doesn't have the words for that. And so actually one of the things that I definitely spoke about was the fact that, how do we deal with the fact that a white majority audience might be thinking like Chantel, hear what she's saying, hear no real argument against that, and leave the space with this unresolved tension. I think one of the things that you really have to make peace with theatre is that you have to start the conversation, but you can't guide the conversation. It's not useful to tell them what to think. We can only open up the conversation and hope that they themselves will put it upon themselves to learn, because even if you had Joe saying, no, it's this and it's that and the third, can they really hear? Is that really going to undo all those years and moments of change? I think people who were already identifying with what Chantel was saying were not going to see an hour and 20-minute show and suddenly come out and be like, I do completely understand the intersectionalities of privilege, and I feel like, Scottishness can be all these things. They might even felt preached to. So in a way, seeing themselves represented with no real answer maybe might give them the space to also feel like this is still an ongoing conversation, and I don't have to feel like I'm behind and I'm the only one who hasn't gotten the answer yet. The answer is still to come. So that, in that regard, the open-endedness, it makes people feel less judged and gives them an opportunity maybe to try and learn themselves, which is good, definitely. Yeah, I think she's the only character in the play who has like quite a significant moment with every other character, which is really interesting because she is the outsider coming in. So, you know, you do have this thing of like, there are existing social dynamics and someone has kind of come in and put an earthquake through all of that. And I would say her main relationship is with Joe, with Adiz's character, just because she's obviously looking for some form of sisterhood. You know, that's a black and mixed race person, so she tries to relate to that person, but, you know, which can be very common with lots of people who are, I don't say controlling, but maybe are used to having more authority over the people in their life. Imogen comes in and tells Joe how to live her life, you know, and that involves getting rid of her best friend of how many years, Chantel. Like, it's quite entitled, quite arrogant in a way. But she does this with everyone. She comes and tells everyone how she thinks they should live their life, who she thinks everyone is. She makes all of these decisions. And what I found quite interesting in terms of the whole journey, I guess, because it's dotted around throughout, you kind of just need to see the whole thing to see how Imogen's relationship is with everyone, because she has a direct interaction with everyone. She triggers Pam's relationship to her body and to her ovaries and her, you know, relationship to motherhood, not even on purpose, but just by, you know, expressing herself. And also, you know, she encourages Helen to be more confident, which later on, Helen uses that confidence against Imogen, you know. And Chantel and Joe's characters both had to confront something that was already unspoken between them because Imogen kind of wouldn't let it go. But I think I found really interesting is just that I think none of the characters really confronted Imogen for who she was. You know, no one really noticed that this was a person who was telling everyone how to live their life, but wasn't living their life authentically or honestly or even in a good way, you know. But she felt like she could see everyone. But I don't feel like, even with her relationship with Joe, that Joe even really sees her, you know. But Imogen's someone who's going through grief, and to some extent, I'm sure she doesn't really care because I think she's just trying to survive, you know. And I think that was a conversation we did have at the very end. I think maybe after the first couple of previews, I think with Johnny and with Nat, where it was kind of agreed that Imogen was so far in the beginning of her grieving process, she hadn't really come to terms with anything, because originally they had her journey be that she hadn't cried since the death of her sister, and then she would cry as she was singing this song in Gaelic. But what we found was that wasn't really reading, because there just wasn't enough time to process that for the journey. I think also because the scenes are so short, the moment where she'd have that, it was like 5 seconds later she was up in a different scene with Adiza. It's like, so for me, even as an actor, it's like, fine, you get there emotionally, you're crying, you don't have time to process it. The next scene you're laughing, there's tears in your eyes. It's quite weird for the audience, it's weird for you. So it changed to be like she is at the start of her journey, you know, and so because of that, it's interesting. I wonder to what extent the audiences themselves might even notice and reflect that this is a person who wants to change everyone else, but they themselves remain unchanged. I would say key moments, probably talking to Joe on top of the bars, because this is where it's very clearly said, my sister has died, and she talks about it plainly. I think she doesn't talk about it plainly at any other point. I would say probably her monologue, just because it's an opportunity to kind of hear how her brain is processing being rich in a capitalist society, but also being black in a white majority society, and how she feels about that. I think it gives the audience an opportunity to think about things differently. And I also think her conversation with Joe just before that monologue, because she so very clearly tells Joe why she shouldn't be friends with Chantel, you know, with a complete disregard to their history. She's just basically telling Joe to be selfish, which is, it tells you a lot about Imogen, that A, she feels comfortable doing that, and B, that she would tell someone to do that, like to leave everyone that they know, like, and I think the fact that she and Joe don't fall out after that when they're both being so bluntly honest with each other does suggest that maybe there is some real friendship in there, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to come back from a conversation like that, but they kept going. So I don't know. I think my therapist would say that it's probably a trauma bond between them, because they'd only known each other about 8 weeks, because it's the whole length of the play should be taking place across 8 weeks and 10 Highland Games. So to do all of that, unpick all of that and share all of that in 2 months suggests that they got very close intensely, you know? Joe can't escape her blackness, and Imogen won't let her. And she doesn't let up about Chantel from that point. It's like after then, it's negative Chantel this, negative Chantel that. And she does become very antagonistic towards their friendship and quite aggressively negative. So it's really important, because from that point onwards, it's no longer a miscommunication. Imogen doesn't care if she's misunderstanding Chantel. She just wants her gone, which is not fair, but it puts a lot of pressure on Joe. If you have acted a certain way in your friendship for years and it's never ever been a problem, like, I get it, an outsider can come in and say, like, there's something wrong with this, but within the friendship, I feel like you always have to give people the opportunity to change. And if Chantel's never had the opportunity to change, if she's never had Joe tell her, I don't like this, you need to speak up for me, and then she's let her down, it's, you know, at the end of the day, she's being honest, Chantel, when she says, I didn't know what to do, because she didn't. No one's ever taught her, no one's ever told her, and I get it, it's different. Maybe as a black and mixed race person, you say, no one taught me, like, how to react, I had to learn this, I had to learn that, and I understand, but if you want to keep those people in your life, you have to give them the opportunity to change. There's no point villainizing them, because Chantel does care about Joe. She does love her. And her ignorance isn't a reason to vilify her. Give her the opportunity. If she flops, then fine. But I think she didn't have the opportunity. The first time she found out about it was in that final duologue when they're fighting. And I think that's something that the audience definitely empathize with. Like, I think with Chantel, they're like, I give her the opportunity to change. And I think I would hope if there was one journey then that they come out with reflecting on, it's that if their friend gave them the opportunity to change, that maybe they don't want to be like Chantel, they don't want to lose something. They might work a bit harder, you know, to try and learn. You know, we're having different conversations about race in London, just like they're having different conversations here, because the experiences are similar, but they're distinct, you know? So when we have people brought together from those different environments, and especially with the International Festival from all over the world and all the conversations they're having there, you would just hope that they come away from this with the idea that we can try a bit harder to give all of ourselves the opportunity to change, because we are all going through our own wrestle. Like, it's like, as clearly as Helen says, like, their wrestle is their wrestle, and you don't know what they have to go through to get up every single day. So we try a bit harder. Some people are going to be dicks, and that's fine. We've made our peace with that. But most people, I think, especially the people who were coming to see this play, they're trying, you know? And as long as you're trying, there has to be something, right?